J, the most passionate non-doctor on the internet. And before we get to anything today, I have to give a special thanks for the show idea right here to Miss Melanie Rousaw. So thank you for bringing this up. She had inquired about this video quite a while ago, and I just wanted to make sure that she knew that she is the inspiration behind this one. Well, what are we talking about today? You might have guessed from the title that's below this video, but it's called ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Now, these things are quite common nowadays. You might see some things that are in schools nowadays where we think that the kid just can't sit there and be themselves. They can't behave. They can't do their work because something's wrong with their mind. But I beg to differ. Now, clinically, what they say ADHD is they say it's a condition of inattention, all right, hyperactivity, and impulsiveness. Now, to me, those sound like everyday traits of a normal human being. But here's where they try to make the caveat here. Your child is in excess in these particular symptoms, and they need to be dealt with medications. No surprise there, right? Pill society, all right? So now that we're popping a pill for everything, we want to do it to our children and our young adults, okay? Now, let's move a little bit further into this situation that we call a problem, okay? Now, let me throw in a little 2 cents here. Just because your kid can't sit still in a classroom doesn't mean they're sick and they need to be medicated. You see, I fidget on a regular basis. I would be considered hyperactive, as you guys can see in the videos. And that might cause some people concern, and now they want to put me on drugs. Now, if let's say a fox in the woods were to get a little uppity, all right, to start scratching away at a tree, well, we immediately go to the fox population out in the forest and say, you know what? All of these foxes need medication. They're out of control. They're acting out of the norm. They normally do this, but they're doing it a little bit more than normal. You see, the reason you say that is because we have now been brought into a testing culture. You see, back in the 1990s? Yeah. President George Bush actually, 2000, President George Bush actually passed a law called No Child Left Behind. That means that if you didn't do well on these now standardized tests, that something was wrong with your child. And if your child couldn't sit there, all right, like all the other good children, and study the way they're supposed to, and I use that term loosely, then there's a problem, and they need to be shoved back in line with the other kids. Because if your kid acts different, there's something wrong with him. Well, let me propose an alternative. Maybe they're in the wrong fucking environment. Have you ever thought about that one? How about your kids may not want to go to school? Maybe they see something in this educational curriculum that's telling them, this is not for me. Could that be a possibility? But you see, some of you think, well, if every kid that had that said they didn't want to go to school, we would never have anybody in school. And I say to that, maybe they shouldn't be. You see, I'm a teacher. I'm an instructor, taught on every level, all right? From middle school to high school to now college. And you know what I see in the children? A disinterest in this antiquated curriculum. The only reason we think that if we can change these kids by charter schools and all this technology is going on is because we can throw a couple of tablets in the room and all of a sudden the kid is going to be a genius and enjoy learning. Nope. You see, all I found over the years that all that's required to learn is someone willing to teach and someone willing to take that information and incorporate it into their lives. That's all learning is. But see, the learner has to find the way to incorporate information into their brain. It is not the teacher's responsibility to put their information, unimplant it for my brain, stick it into your brain, and now you know everything I know. We have two separate brains, and therefore we will process information differently. Thus, you can never put a whole bunch of kids in a classroom, a whole bunch of adults in a classroom and think that they're going to pick up information in the same way. And now different modalities are required to get to each and every individual person. And that's what we're trying to go to. But you see, the rigidity of this old system persists. And they want to, instead of progressing with the times and actually going into this individualized style of teaching where every student is given a different curriculum because it's too hard, all right, they don't want to do it. They want to keep the old system because it's been set up through this oligarchy, right? And they want to keep your kids drugged so they'll stay in line. So if your kids veer off mentally from where the other kids are, there's something wrong with your kid. They've been diagnosed with ADHD. There's something wrong with them. They're not picking up the information. They won't pay attention. And there is a problem with that. You are destroying this old system that we have set up and we have invested all this money into that doesn't work anymore. You see, you all don't feed into the problem. Now, that leads me to another thing where I want to talk about as far as Sir Ken Robinson. If you don't know him, look him up on YouTube. He's got one of the most popular TED Talks in TED Talk history and pretty substantial views on YouTube. Now, I'm going to read something to you here so you can actually see what he says about creativity because he has been in charge of the educational system and economics for the UK, and his opinions are extremely enlightening to me, at least. So let me read you something from him so you can see where this all is going. Okay. Now, he says, okay, Sir Ken Robinson, chair of the UK government's report on creativity, education, and the economy, described a research that showed that young people lost their ability to think in divergent and nonlinear ways, a key component of creativity. Now, linear means you've been told what to do. Let's see if you can do it. And you are not to diverge from this pathway in any way, shape, or form. All right. Now, here are the statistics that go behind that. Of 1,600 children aged 3 to 5, okay, 3 years old, 5 years old, all right, they were tested. 98% showed that they could think in divergent ways. 98%. That is almost a complete majority. 3 to 5 years old. Now, if we continue, it says by the time they were age 8 to 10, okay, so we got 3 to 5 years later, right? 3 to 5 years later, it says that 32% could think divergently. So we went from 98% to 32%. Keep up with me here. All right. Now, it says when the same test was applied to 13 to 15-year-olds, 3 to 5 years after that, we find that only 10% could think divergently or in another way. It sounds to me like education is being taught right out of our children. You see, sometimes it's not your kids. Sometimes it's the bogus. Sometimes it's the corrupt system that you're sitting them in. And then you blame your kid for not doing his homework. Let me take this just a little bit further with you. It says here, and when the test was used with 200,000 25-year-olds, only 2% could think divergently. Only 2% could think divergently. Let that sink into your skull for a second. It sounds like human beings are being bred to become these mindless automatons that just follow orders, that pull out their credit card when they're told to pay their taxes when they're told to give away their rights when they're told to. Okay? So, I'm going to give you another study, one of the most famous studies in the history of kids losing their creativity. It was done by a scientist. His name was, let me see if I can find the name for you. His name was, I couldn't find it. Hold on. I thought it was in here. Here it is. All right. So, Kyung Hee Kim, he actually did the creativity research. All right, now in 2010, he did a study on 300,000 creativity tests going back from the 1970s all the way up until the 1990s. Okay, people are still using this as the benchmark for decreased creativity in America. And what it says is since 1990, children have become less able to produce unique and unusual ideas. They are also less humorous, less imaginative, and less able to collaborate on ideas, Kim says. He asked the question, so has modern society really extinguished the creativity or the creative spark among our youth? You see, that bothers me because you think because your kid is fidgeting in class, he needs drugs. I'm begging to differ that maybe it's something else that your kid needs, like your attention. All right, I don't want to get into this whole thing about you don't have time, because in reality, what you're doing is working. What you're doing is you're spending time at work, you're coming home, you're spending time in front of the television, but there is no such thing as quality time with your kids. And that's why sometimes they don't have the mental faculties and they don't see what the reason is for school, because school doesn't explain why they do anything. They just say do it, and then when you ask why, they said because I said so, because you're the child and I'm the adult, and that's the reason. You see, your kids can't grow that way mentally. Okay, they'll grow physically and you'll identify them as an adult by the size that they are. But really, what you're doing is you're creating an infant mental-wise, psychologically, and now all of a sudden you're going to have a problem on your hands where now we have a public who won't stand up for itself, who won't question anything, and who will do anything that the established authority puts down. I don't want you thinking like that. So let's move on to the next point here. All right, now, what I found from this is the more that you decrease a child's freedom, the more you decrease a child's creativity. You see, parents, I know you're supposed to teach your kids and let them go and see do your lessons actually apply in real life. The goal is not to be hovering over them like a new drone robot that they shoot video with nowadays, to hover over them and make sure that they do everything that you say down to the letter because you know best. Guess what? You got your information from your parents and they get it from you. Okay? So that means that in between, there was no checks and balances to see if this was correct. There was no checks and balances to make sure that this way was the best way to raise your child. You just did it because somebody did it to you. It's how abuse proliferates in families. All right, it's how disregard about money or not knowing how to handle money passes that down through families. You see, this report here from Psychology Today says that, take a look, a child's freedom declines, so do their creativity. Okay, and I'm going to pop that up there on the screen so you can take a look at it. All right, so that is phenomenal that people actually fall for this kind of mind skull screwing here in America. And I have to think about that. So how about this? All right, let's go a little bit deeper here. Enter social media. And in social media, what happens is we have people who base their self-esteem, a core emotional component, your self-esteem, is based in likes for your pictures, likes for your videos, hearts for your live streams, is all wrapped up in social media. Something that doesn't mean anything. You see, on social media, everybody's life is fantastic. They show you the best of everything. The meal that they had last Tuesday, the vacation they went on, the 1 year, the one time out of 5 years that they got off in their job, and you think they're living the life, the dream life that we all want, right? People show you the Lamborghinis that are from Google Images. They show you the big houses that they're living in that are rented. They're showing you the cars and the clothes that they're buying that actually they took back to the store the next day. You see, it's not right to actually show these things. If you're going to show something, why don't you show it all? Why don't you show the bad too? Why don't you show everything that goes on to your life so people don't know, so people can know that you're not full of shit. But you see, kids watch this stuff, and because their parents don't step in and tell them what's real and what's not, they tend to believe the facade that's out there on the social media, and that can cause anxiety. Anxiety leads to fidgeting, and fidgeting leads to lack of attention, because with deep core issues like your self-esteem, you see, that trumps education. That trumps gaining new friends. Your internal environment is what's important to you, and it's what you have access to all the time. Therefore, whenever somebody else tries to tell you something, try to help you out, invite you to go somewhere, you don't want to do it because you're socially inept. Because even though social media was supposed to bring us closer together, it's the destroyer of personal interactions. I know some people are out there and the gurus are talking about social media is bringing us closer together, and the kids are more social than any time in history. Well, in real life, you're forced to be social because you have to talk to people face to face. You see, you can't unfriend somebody and just delete them from your life forever. You can't just delete a person from your profile and you never get to see them again. See, in computers, that can happen. But in real life, you can't do that. You can't unfriend me in person and just make me go away. I might have something to say about that, right? And you don't want to hear it. So we got to go deeper into why these things are proliferating into things like ADHD, when really it's a self-esteem issue that comes down to a reinforced social belief that others are living a great life and we are not. And because that emotional stimulus is so strong, it can actually trump a person's concentration on education or even making new friends. Let's go to the next one. All right, now, how about parents? How about you're making it worse? Parents, you're stepping in and you're trying to step on your kid's neck, okay? What you're doing is you're trying to come in and you're trying to put the pressure on your kid and tell them what they're going to do, when they're going to do it, and how they're going to do it, and it's going to be your way or the highway, right? Parents, that's what you like to do. You like to control your kids to make sure that your neighbors don't get the wrong idea about your kids. I'm going to tell you like this. I'll raise my kids however I want, and I'll try to give them whatever I can to uplift them. And if they want to become an entrepreneur, if they're living in my house and they're 26 years of age, then guess what? All right? I don't give a fuck what the neighbors think about my kid and what I'm doing with my family. If you people are playing these games about keeping up with the Joneses, I think you should get another line of mental clarity before you ever talk to your children, because you yourself are fucked up. Don't give me this crap about I want the best for my kids. If you did, you'd be spending more time with them, not telling them what to do. All right? You show me and I'll get it. If you tell me, I'll listen to somebody else. Because regardless of popular belief, your kids spend more time with their friends at school than they ever did with their parents. So who do you expect them to listen to? Mom and dad. I'm going to go one deeper. You parents out there are actually telling your kids, well, scratch that. You're telling doctors and teachers to put your kids on drugs to calm them down, to make them conform to what other kids are. Mark Twain says, if you ever find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect. I think that has never been truer than for right now. If your kid steps out of line, maybe you should talk to them about why they stepped out of line. Yeah, talk to them so that they'll give you the real reason, instead of coming down on them like a ton of bricks so they never tell you anything, and then when they get pregnant, they run off and leave with their boyfriend and live on the street because they'd rather do that than talk to their parents, because they know they're going to get the hellfire of the judgment. But rather than talk to your kids, your best alternative is to put them on Adderall, put them on Ritalin, put them on Wellbutrin. First of all, if you put your kid on Adderall, it only lasts about 4 to 6 hours. That means you got to give it multiple times a day. That's going to do tremendously bad things to their internal environment. Okay? This stuff is dangerous. All right, hold on. I'm going to show you how dangerous. Let me take one of these and show you here. Now, Wellbutrin, That's one of the ones I just mentioned. Wellbutrin causes headaches and seizures in children. Okay, headaches and seizures in young adults. So don't dismiss those facts when you're actually giving your kids this. But how about some other famous drugs that are on the market here? Let me read a couple to you so you can actually see this here. It says here it's called Catapris. Okay, now that might as well just be Wellbutrin. It's just another name because another company made it and they're trying to get in on the money. All right, now it says here duration 46 hours. Okay, just like the other ones here. And it says here, symptoms: fatigue, dizziness, dry mouth, irritability, behavior problems, low blood pressure. Stopping this medicine can suddenly result in high blood pressure. Well, it sounds like to me you shouldn't have taken it in the first place. But let me point out something. You have a child with a psychological issue that you think, right, called ADHD. The medication here says it causes behavioral problems. Well, last time I checked, ADHD was a behavioral problem, and this medication causes behavioral problems. So do you think it's going to fix the problem, or do you think it's going to make it worse? I'm guessing for 2 months, you're going to see a slight improvement, and you're going to say, oh my God, this is working like a godsend. After those 2 months, guess what? Old liver boy kicks in, and he's going to start asking you, why are you giving me this stuff? I'm trying to clean it out of the system. Now you're going to build a tolerance to it. And guess what? Doesn't work as well anymore. And now your behavioral problems get significantly worse. You got to learn how drugs work, interactions, your body's reactions to them. This is I have a list of 4 here. All of them say the exact same thing. Are you all getting this yet? All right. I got to go a little further. Make the video a little longer because you guys need to know this. 9.5% of all American children have been diagnosed with ADHD. Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder. That equates to 5.4 million children who are on medication. Now, let me read something to you that you might find quite interesting, all right, as I have as well. Now, here, the New England Journal of Medicine, reputable, okay, they actually did an article that says here, and I'm going to pop that up on the screen so you can really see it. It says here, ADHD drugs and serious cardiovascular events in children and young adults, meaning that ADHD medications cause heart conditions, all right? Cardiac arrhythmias, heart attacks, cardiac arrest, okay? That kind of stuff, okay? Now, it says here, in the background, okay, this is the beginning of a medical article. It says, adverse events report from North America have raised concerns that the use of drugs for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder increases the risk of serious cardiovascular events. So they've had so many people have so many things go wrong, with the main one being a deformity of the heart, that it becomes defective. Now they had to write an article about it. Now I'm going to truthfully read to you the conclusion from this article, okay? The conclusion says, okay, this large study showed no evidence that current uses of ADHD medication or drugs was associated with an increased risk of serious cardiovascular events. Although the upper limit of 95% confidential interval indicated that a doubling of the risk could not be ruled out. However, the absolute magnitude of such increased risk would be low. Basically saying there's nothing wrong with taking ADHD medications, all right? They don't do anything to the heart. All these people who are calling in, it's so many calling in, we have to write this article, but it's not enough to cause concern. Well, how about they felt it necessary to put a caveat right below their conclusion that says, funded by the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality and the Food and Drug Administration. You see, the FDA doesn't pay for studies. Usually the pharmaceutical companies do that. Well, now the FDA is now manipulating science. See, you are supposed to get this done by a third party, not someone who is directly involved or with giving the ultimate end result, which is what they've done here, which is why the New England Journal of Medicine felt it necessary to tell you that at the end of the paragraph here, that it was funded by these two companies who are extremely corrupt. And if you guys don't know anything about the FDA, 60% of their funding comes from pharmaceutical companies. So who are you going to vote for when that actually comes down the pipe? The people who are paying you 60% of all your money, or third-party researcher who's paid you nothing but has the true facts on the table. Screw the facts. We want to get paid, right? Okay, let's go to another one here. You guys might have noticed I usually don't come to you with problems without giving you solutions. So here's a solution I think you all would be grateful to hear. And of course, it's along my true lines of getting you healthier and better. Now, I call the digestive system the second brain, because it actually analyzes everything that comes into your system, determines if you need it or not, and then excretes what it doesn't need and keeps and uses what it does. That is the fantastic thing about your human body. Now, if you give a child or an adult, all right, ADHD medication, remember, anything that you put in your mouth that is a pill, a medication from a pharmaceutical company, will stop or slow a metabolic process. Now, on top of that, you're going to have holes blown into your digestive system, all right, which is going to cause leaky gut, okay? Meds in your medical tract will do this, okay? So what the stomach is going to do is you're going to have ulcers in your stomach. You're going to have holes in your small intestine and large intestine. Once that happens and this leaky gut sets in, guess what? Fecal matter and acid from your stomach can now leak into your abdominal pelvic cavity. That is going to cause Peyer's patches or your intestines sticking together, and later on could even result in cancer, intestinal cancer. And we don't want those things to happen to you. But if you are not, let's say for instance we eat holes into your small and your large intestine. Well, the small intestine is responsible for absorbing the nutrients into your body that you need to rebuild your system every day. So if that's not happening, guess what? You can't absorb any nutrients from the food that you're eating, and you can't absorb B vitamins. B vitamins are responsible for every important and significant psychological and biological process that goes on inside your body. If you're not on a B complex right now, you should be, and you should make sure that your intestines are intact so you can absorb everything from there. Okay? B12 is responsible for building your blood. You see, you can't get normal blood flow, normal blood pressure without having proper B12 injected into your system so that it can be used to build the red blood cells that carry oxygen and nutrients to your bodily tissues and your vital organs. We have to wake up and realize what this is doing to your body just by taking any of these medications, let alone ADHD medications. Now, how do you fix this? Well, I'm going to tell you, dopamine is the one that you need to keep a stable mood, all right? If you're getting too high as far as hyperactive disorder, that means that when you're off, you're in depression. You see, the swings are usually pretty big when somebody has ADHD. You don't stay up here all the time. When you crash, you go into a real low, which we call depression. And when you go into depression, now they want to give you medication for that. You see, it's a vicious cycle. See, the minute I find something wrong on this end, I can give you drugs, and those drugs can destroy your health, but your mood swings will go down to here. Now I can give you drugs for this, and now we got drugs for depression, all exhibiting their side effects. The whole time, it's all going to hell. What I want you to do is I want you to clean your colon. You can do a saline wash or you can do a dietary fiber. I don't care. Do one. Clean out your small and large intestines so you get everything out of there. Now you'll be able to absorb those vitamins and minerals and release the serotonin, which is your happy hormone, and that dopamine, which keeping you at an even keel. And now you might not have a child that has hyperactivity or extreme bouts and bursts out in class and in public just by changing their diet. But I do not want you turning off the kid's personality by use of harsh, harmful drugs that will degrade their health and degrade their personality and having them sit there like a vegetable. That's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to have your child be able to function in society, have these adults function in society without the need to peel up or liquor up or cocaine or heroin to subdue themselves so they can go through this meaningless existence that they found here on earth. That's basically why we're doing this. But my last caveat here is fruits and vegetables, vitamins and minerals. After you've cleaned out your colon, it tends to get rid of all this stuff, and you do not need medications. Just because your kid is acting out does not mean there is something wrong with them. Get that out of your head. All right? Your kid might not want to be there. Maybe your kid is a dancer. But let me end it off with another story from Sir Ken Robinson. He tells a story of when a young lady was sitting in class. She would not pay attention, but she would always sit there and she would just be fidgeting. She would be fidgeting all the time, right? So, mom is extremely concerned because her grades are dropping to the point where she's about to flunk out of school and they're ready to kick her out. And Sir Ken Robinson comes in, takes her daughter to a special studio, asks her a couple of questions, all right, gets her off in the right direction to talking about her problems, and her mom and Dr. Robinson, they go to a dance studio. And mom and Dr. Ken, they're standing behind the window as their daughter sits on the floor of a dance studio. Music is playing, other young ladies are in there dancing, they're doing their different thing, and all of a sudden, this young lady comes to life. Her daughter starts dancing. She gets a smile on her face, which her mother had not seen in years. And why? Because her daughter was not in the right environment in the classroom. She was in the right environment in the dance studio. And you have to find out what makes your kids fly mentally, not sticking them into an educational system that is designed to turn them into a mindless automaton that does when they say, what they say, when they say it, and how they want it done. Don't. Talk to your children. The best medicine is conversation. If you want to give your kids some medicine, I suggest a multivitamin to help their digestive tract, and I suggest a good strong bit of conversation every day to find out what your children are going through, and how about putting yourself aside like you're used to doing as a parent, remember, and getting your kids back to the focus of your attention. I hope I wasn't too deep for you there, but that is all I have for today. I will talk to you later. This is Alvin J., the most passionate non-doctor on the internet, saying stay out of the hospital. Keep your kids off of drugs and interact with your children. After all, it's what they want. I'll talk to you later. See ya. Peace.